So I'm very excited to talk to you today about food safety and the Food Safety Modernization Act. And it's probably the only time you're here this week, someone telling you how excited they are about food safety. But actually, the new legislation that's come out is a big deal. And whether it was on the top 10 list of the emerging trends for food manufacturers, what you'll learn today, I hope, is that it will have a big impact in the way you operate your manufacturing facilities going forward. What I want to do is give you some insight into what is the Food Safety Modernization Act and what does it cover. What are we doing at Heinz to get prepared for the emerging regulations that are going to come out, and then some suggestions on what you can do to get ready for all the change that's going to be coming your way. So it's kind of unique to me that someone from Heinz is here to be able to talk about food safety legislation, because our founder, H.J. Heinz, was the sole food manufacturer that supported the first food safety regulation back in 1906, the Pure Foods and Drug Act. And that's one of the reasons we call ourselves the original Pure Foods company. The other reason is that the company was really built on a foundation of pure and natural foods and no fillers, and we try to embrace that approach today. So if you look at the timeline for food legislation, you can see back early on the first legislation came out of the book by Upton Sinclair called The Jungle, as you probably remember. In the late 30s, there was another regulation, and then took 70 years before there was another significant regulation as it related to food safety. That doesn't mean that there weren't a lot of other regulations that came out, but they were very targeted. Seafood HACCP, juice HACCP, nut pasteurization. The one that came out last year was really about holistically across the whole food chain and across everything that FDA has as an impact for. So a little over a year ago, Obama signed into law the Food Safety Modernization Act, or what most people call FSMA. This was a big change for the agency. It created a lot of increases in authority, and more importantly, what it did was it created very aggressive goals and timelines that the agency has to meet without any incremental funding. For us, there's some positive things, okay? It's if you look at imports, food safety is really positive because the numbers have been trying to change a lot of the importing ingredients that we bring into the country. This will drive some standardization and consistency across the industry. But there's also some onerous requirements that are going to create a lot of additional work for us. For example, obviously, ketchup is one of our key products. We've been making it for over 100 years. Have never had a food safety issue, but under this legislation, we're going to have to provide data to validate that our product is safe. So we're going to have to either go into the annals of the company and dig a bunch of data out or create a bunch of data just to prove the product's safe when it's been safe since the beginning. So if you look at FSMA, what is it made of? It's really a component of 5 key areas: preventive controls, inspection and compliance, imports, how the agency responds to issues that happen, and enhanced partnerships. And of these 5 components, what you'll see, there will be dozens of regulations that come out of that. What I'm going to do is kind of give you some details around each one of those. So preventive controls. This is really the most significant part of the act. And FDA has written a proposed rule for preventive controls, and it's tied up in OMB right now. No one really knows when it's going to come out, but I think the guess is that they're going to combine it with some other food safety regulations and probably roll it out before the election. So there'll probably be a big event later this fall. So what does preventive controls mean? It's really about identifying hazards with science. It's about, and I think we all know hazards are unique to product, process, the manufacturing line, and even the distribution system that you have. Then you need to do the supplemental things. Once you identify the hazards, how are you going to control it? So it's really building preventive controls. It's how do you monitor that? How do you know that you have the proper documentation? And how do you verify that your process is accurate from that point of view? FDA has developed 5 subgroups that they're working on to develop preventive controls for the industry. I'm on one of those, and what we really are trying to do is to drive some consistency in product categories around the industry. This is like HACCP plans in general. What you'll need to do is really go through and annually update your program, or if you have a change in the plant, you'll update it. And the unique part of this is that it covers both unintentional hazards and intentional hazards. Unintentional is things that are inherent in the product. Intentional would be bioterrorism, tampering, adulteration type of issues. Inspection and compliance. Really, the agency has a lot of increased authority. One that's important to know is expanded record access. They've set out a proposed guideline on records, and what they have said is if they go into your plant and suspect a food safety issue, they can have access to all of your food safety records. If they're going to follow up to a recall, they can have access to all of your food safety records. Doesn't mean they can come into your plant at any time and you can just open up all your books, but clearly what you're going to see is more review and scrutiny of your records, which could create a bigger problem for you. On traceability, they have a program that's being led by IFT right now, Institute of Food Technologists, and trying to define what their expectations on traceability. Right now, you would assume it's one step forward, one step backward, and until we hear anything further. And then inspection fees. This is a big change for us as an industry, and we fought this for quite a while to try to make sure that we don't have to pay for inspection fees. They have a very focused area that they're going to work on, that they're going to get money from us. One is related to if they find in a current inspection a food safety issue and they want to come back and verify you've made the proper changes, they're going to charge you fees. More than likely, they may come in initially with one person, they're going to come back with 4 or 5 people, right? Just to make sure it's done right. The other one is follow-up from a recall. But the big impact is this is going to be tens of thousands of dollars up to 6 figures. So it's not a small issue for you. The other thing on inspection is that Congress has given the FDA clear mandates on what they need to inspect and how often. So there are 2 categories, high-risk plants or low-risk plants. High-risk plants, initially, they have to inspect every high-risk plant in the U.S. within 5 years that the act was signed. After that, every high-risk plant is audited every 3 years. Low-risk plants are audited every 7 years. So you've got a difference between 7 years and 5 years, and that's a minimum. They can audit more frequently, but they have to do it within those time frames. The good part is the agency has given us guidelines as to what a high-risk plant is and what's a low-risk plant. A high-risk plant, they've got 3 categories. One is if the product category that you have has had either a recall and an outbreak, both. You're going to be considered high risk. So as an example, if you're making orange juice and your competitor has a recall and an outbreak, you're going to be put in a penalty box, and you're going to have to be audited more frequently. The second category is around if your category has either a recall or an outbreak, and your plant hasn't been audited within 5 years. And the third one is if your individual plant has received a warning letter or 3 483 reports in a 5-year time period, you will be put in the penalty box and you'll have to be audited at a higher frequency. As FDA is going out to do these audits, the question is going to be for us, are we going to start seeing a lot more documentation, a lot more 483s, a lot more warning letters? And I think that the jury's still out on that. Import food safety is another big one. And I guess a couple key points on that. It's really around how do we, well, a couple things. There's no way the agency is going to be able to inspect all of these hundreds of thousands of food manufacturing sites. They've got to leverage third parties to do that. That's going to be a big challenge for them as an agency. The next thing is that they have now the authority to deny entry of product into the U.S. And so expect that to be exercised under the constraints that they have around that. And obviously those will be disruptions to your overall manufacturing sites. And then the reality is the intent is very good. The intent is to make sure that food abroad is made under the exact same food safety requirements that food is made in the U.S. That food is as safe made in another country that it is here. So it's hard to argue with that from an intent point of view. Response, another key thing is that the agency now has mandatory recall authority. That is something that they hadn't had in the past. They also have the ability to stop you from shipping product across interstate commerce. The key here is how will the agency leverage this authority? You know, are we going to see an agency that blamed tomatoes a couple years ago for a salmonella outbreak when it was serrano peppers? Or are we going to see an agency that used a high degree of common sense when we had an issue with HVP? I think it was a year ago. And most recently, I would guess we're seeing some practicality from the agency. You think pesticides in orange juice, that could have been a much bigger issue. And so hopefully we will continue to see that basic level of practicality, but always focused on food safety, obviously. And then enhanced partnerships. To me, this is a big deal, right? So as they try to leverage people outside of their agency, local and state inspectors they're leveraging today, and then other countries, I think the problem is how are they going to make sure that they're educated, standardized across the industry? You know, we do see today that within their own inspection population, they have people that have different levels of interpretation of the law and different ways to enforce that law. So how is the agency going to be able to address that and with a much broader population with different cultures and different languages? And then the last thing is really around laboratories. So as the agency leverages laboratories around the world, the last thing we need to do is to react and retrieve product out of the marketplace if that product is based on false laboratory results. So let me tell you a little bit about Heinz. And what I'll do is tell you a little bit about our food safety culture and then what we're doing for the Food Safety Modernization Act. So what we have is what I'll call a risk prevention food safety culture. And it really goes across the entire supply chain. We don't focus within the four walls of the plant. We try to look across the entire supply chain. We also try to engage everyone that's involved in the manufacturing of products, from procurement all the way through logistics. And they have a role in making sure that they ensure that our products are safe. It's similar to what a lot of us are doing, right? It's identifying hazards with data. It's developing preventive controls to make sure that's done right, and then all the supplemental things that go with that. The end result for us is that we're looking for a layer of food safety transparency, right? We're looking for every step along the supply chain to know what the food safety control point is and have that data validated all the way to the consumer. So how do we go about doing this? We have a quality and food safety management system that we call Quality Risk Management Process, or QRMP. And for us, this is the backbone of our total continuous improvement model as an organization. It basically has 16 system standards, and system standards are really the how to do stuff, how to do risk assessment, how to do training, those types of things. And then we have 32 operational standards, and that's the what. what are we doing on supplier quality, sanitation, et cetera. The unique part is for system standards is that we do a risk assessment for every single one of those system standards. So as an example, pest control. Everybody knows you need pest control in a plant, but we still do a risk assessment to understand what's the unique pest in your environment. The pests that are in India versus Alabama are going to be different, right? So we need to know what are the pests, what are the pest treatment applications, where are the right locations, where's the right way to validate that your system's working, et cetera. So it is much more involved than I've seen in other companies that I've worked for and basically other plants that I've seen. In addition to that, we have a risk management model for raw materials. And so this is a database that we call the Heinz Shield. And this program is really around putting in all of the risks that are related to every raw material that we buy. And the beauty for us is that because we have a global footprint, we have people in every region where we manufacture or distribute or procure ingredients. And so we're able to identify what those emerging issues are, get those in the database, and allow us to understand what our overall risks are. But that said, we then prioritize our ingredients from high risk to low risk, right? High risk, we have various certain criteria that we go. One, it's always an on-site audit, period. That's either by a Heinz subject matter expert, someone that is deep in knowledge with the commodity that you're inspecting, or we use GFSI, Global Food Safety Initiative audit, plus a Heinz bolt-on audit or a Heinz targeted audit. So we target a certain food safety aspect on that. Those two seem to work really well. The benefit, again, because of the global footprint, we're able to utilize local quality experts that understand the culture, the language, and the emerging issues in that various region. We also have, for all of our suppliers, we require that we have a signed specification from the supplier. And with the high-risk suppliers, we do testing in the plants on some frequent occasion, just to make sure that verifies that the specification is right. Low risk, we typically would do a